Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. How are my peeps doing? I trust everybody's doing just fine today. Anyway, welcome aboard. First in the queue is Yvette Avery Herod, our wonderful union activist out of Atlanta, Georgia. How are you doing today, our beautiful Yvette? Likewise in the house is Michael Rudnin. And yes, Rudnin, I got your message to make sure to put that link in the blue sky, and it's there. Welcome aboard from Brooklyn, New York is Michael Rudnin. From Houston, Texas is Patrick Magner. Meow, he says. And of course, we have also in the house, I'm scrolling down, El Senor Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia, and Lee Grant from Montgomery County, Texas. Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood. How are you guys doing today? Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Michael starts. I haven't seen this speech anywhere in our legacy media. Mexico is about to do what our nation should have promised. Egberto, one for the screen. All right, let's go ahead and get that for the screen. Anything with Claudia Sheinbaum, she has my heart. She's the only one who had the cojones to go up against Donald Trump. And here we go. Let's get it onto the screen for Mr. Rudnin. And it goes like this. Yesterday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum delivered her 100-day address to a packed Zocalo. We will not return to the neoliberal model. Bingo! We will not return to the regime of privileges and corruption. Bingo, we say, for the good of all, first the poor. Wow, I hadn't seen that. I need to check that out. Hey, Rudnin, put the actual link to the speech in the chat, because I'd like to. Is it in Spanish? I imagine it would be in Spanish. Well, of course it's in Spanish. Yeah, put that link in there, but I love that. We will not return to neoliberal model. The problem is since 1980, we have been full-fledged neoliberal. Biden did a little slight, not a detour. He did a little bend, but we have a lot of work to do, folks. We've got to kill neoliberalism because neoliberalism is killing us. I repeat, neoliberalism is killing us. And the problem with the form, we have perfected neoliberalism in such a form that even those that neoliberalism is killing, they are the biggest protectors of neoliberalism. It's a shame, but it's the reality. If I start to talk about progressive values with a lot of the folks who vote, they'll start saying, oh, we don't want communism, not understanding the true concepts. Neoliberalism must die. All right, continuing. Salon, why the legacy media suddenly sound like Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders was right. Democratic political strategist James Carville finally admits. I think Senator Bernie Sanders has somewhat of a point. There are things Sanders favor that we could have put more front and center. The comment itself was not shocking. It is shocking to me. I didn't hear that, by the way, but the messenger was exactly coming from the master triangulating neoliberalizer who worked for Clinton. Bernie would have crushed Trump. A real populist always does against a fall populist. Reminds me of Jimmy Dore back while he was with TYT so many years. The Democratic Party would rather lose to a worse Republican than with a progressive because that's what their corporate donors want. And you nailed it. Neoliberalism is promoted from centrist Republicans and centrist Democrats, from mid-right-wing Republicans to sort of mid-left-wing Democrats. Unfortunately, the folks that really would support, forget about the ideological stuff and the social stuff, but when it comes to workers and that sort of stuff, the true folks on the right and left, believe it or not, have a tendency to coalesce. And you know how I know that? I went somewhere and this right winger, no, it was on my show, Politics on Right, on the radio at KPFT 90.1 FM. The guy was shocked a part of my program today talking about the corporate structure. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So that is correct, folks. All right, second item from Michael Rudnin. The advocate, New Jersey Democratic State Senator Paul Sarlo, called trans women and advocates for sports ban. History shows that targeting transgender sports is often the first domino in a larger torrent of anti-trans legislation. These attacks rarely stop sports. At sports, they tend to spiderweb into every aspect of gender people's lives, from healthcare to legal recognition to public. One could hope that the solution to corporate Democrats is the primary challenge with anti-corruption progressives who can focus messaging about rooting out corruption. And we should not even have trans on our tongues. We shouldn't even have trans on our tongues. Progressive activists, we should have trans to protect all. We should have trans, gay, all those things for protection. But when it comes to policy, we need to hit it hard with the appropriate messaging. All right, let's see what else we got here. Representative Maxwell Frost from Paul Fleming. Today, the House GOP is pushing forward a bill that should be called the Child Predator Empowerment Act, which could allow adult strangers to question girls about their genitals and look at their naked bodies. Disgusting. I'm heading to the House floor soon to debate this and protect our kids. It's amazing. I hadn't seen that message, Paul. If you have a link to it, when you post those things, could you please post them with links as well? That's an important link. You see what they do with trans and try to make trans something that it isn't? We need to use that stuff about what they want to do with kids' naked bodies and actually turn that into a story, what they want to do to your little girls. Let's get that link if I can, my dear brother Paul Fleming. Trump's inaugural fund is on track to rake in over $200 million in donations by January 20th. Some of the biggest donors are corporations facing federal investigation, including Amazon, Meta, and Goldman Sachs. Not surprising at all. Paul Fleming says the Pam Bondiv confirmation hearing is becoming an exercise in defaming DOJ. Yes, it is. And, what gets to me is Democrats allow these folks to come and start saying the DOJ has been weaponized, and they allow them to talk about the military in disarray. And instead of coming back and hitting them hard and saying that's not true, and here are the numbers. Now, let me ask you a question. Democrats fail every time to defend what they've done and pivot. When these people lie about the issues, they should immediately correct and pivot to the question. But they simply ask the question in these particular things. Democrats are lousy in this game that the Republicans are cleaning their clocks in these hearings. Their clocks are being cleaned in these hearings. Right in the range today. Hi, Bruce. How you doing, my brother? Great to see you. Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas. How you doing, brother? Great seeing you here. All right, Egberto, FB deleted my first comment. Image that. Let's see, what are you talking about? Let's go ahead and see. Remove comment. Okay, let's see what that says. Bear with me. I'm going to put that on the screen. Wow. Why was that removed? Let's do this. Look at what got removed for Brother Rudnin. It says, we removed your comment. Why this happened? The comment may use misleading links to content to trick people to visit or stay. I haven't seen this speech anywhere in our legacy media. Mexico is about to do what our nation should have promised. Egberto, one for the screen. Wait a minute. Michael, who removed that link? Is what I'm trying to get. Is that Facebook? I don't see it there. Am I missing something? Which social media removed that link? I'm curious. Which social media removed that link? All right, let's continue. Egberto, source including video to the speech. Thank you very much for that, Michael. I'll go ahead and let me go ahead and probably fire that off. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. All right, yeah, that's okay. That's good. I didn't mess it up. Okay. Wow, look at that. Look at the amount of people out there. Wow. Okay, I won't play it because it's likely Spanish. All right. Okay. Paul Fleming says, ways the Jack Smith report says Trump criminally attempted to retain power after 2020. 1, induce state officials to ignore true vote counts. 2, manufacture fraudulent slates of presidential election electors in 7 states. 3, force Justice Department officials and his own vice president to act in contravention with the oath and to instead advance Mr. Trump's personal interests. 4, direct an angry mob to the U.S. Capitol. Exactly. All right. Let's say Lee Grant says y'all would replace neoliberalism to neo-Marxism. No, we'll replace neoliberalism with free enterprise. Come on, Brother Grant. You know better than that. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Anyway, I tell you what, let's go ahead. Egberto, Facebook automatic retention modern removed the first comment. Wow. So they're not, here's what's so funny. They're not fact checking, but they're allowing something that doesn't have any smarts to remove your comment. Amazing, isn't it? All right, let's go ahead now and play our first video of the day. This is with one more from I always get his name wrong. Pete Hegseth. Man, that's a difficult name. Anyway, let's go ahead and play that right now, and then we'll take it on the other side. Bear with me as I said. Oh, well, I guess before I do that, I need to go to Ray. All right, Ray. How you doing, my dear brother, Ray?
AI is taking notes.
Hey, Brother Egberto, I'm just chiming in real quick. I wanted to say about the neoliberalism, I really am proud of the president of Mexico really standing up for what they believe in. And unfortunately, it's a tragedy that it's taking for this to happen for the conservative corporate wing, someone like James Carville, to notice, hey, maybe we were wrong about this time. All those times we blacklisted Bernie Sanders, maybe this is the message we should have been adopting. And you're right. I mean, I have trans friends that I'm very close with. I mean, they don't believe that trans should be the forefront of an issue because at the end of the day, they don't want any more rights than anyone else. They just want to not fear for their life when they're out in public.
I mean, you nailed it.
They want to feel like a citizen that belongs in this society, that isn't ostracized constantly. And to your point about neoliberalism, I see people like Stephen A. Smith, for instance. He was somebody I looked up to as a sports commentator, but he's dancing, like another progressive podcaster said, he loves to dance the line and say, oh, I'm an independent. I go with this side. I go with that side. I can't say I'm on one side or the other because they both sound crazy. You know how he talks. And, it's like.
He's a fool. He is a fool. And you know what I call him? You remember the folks that you wind up to dance? Yesa Massa? He's a Yesa Massa guy. That's who he is.
Yeah, just stick to basketball stats and contract disputes. That's not, politics is not his lane. And to your point about neoliberalism, I mean, basically, we gotta. If the Democratic Party really, really wants to win, I'm gonna take it home at this point. They got to support progressives in the primary.
Yeah, let me tell you this, and then I'm going to play the video. But Ray, this is important. They are not going to the rank and file Democratic leadership is not going to give us a damn thing. We have to take it, and that's what I've been telling the folks in our county. That's why we are in the same county, brother. We are in the same county. But that's why I've been telling all our precinct chairs in the county. We have a lot of empty and open precinct chairs. I want progressives to fill up those precinct chairs because that will make policy in Harris County. And for every county around the country, progressives just have to get up there and take it like they did. I think it was in either Colorado or New Mexico. They actually took over the party. And you know what those suckers did? They took the money. They took the money out of the thing after we took over one of the parties in, I think it was New Mexico or Colorado. I don't remember which one it was. The progressive actually was a DSA, I believe, that took it over. And that is exactly what we have to do. Take over the party, county after county, and then make sure that we elect progressives at the table, because then progressives will win. But thank you, my brother.
Thank you, bro. I'll be watching. Take care.
You have a good one. All right, folks, I want you to take a look at what Elizabeth Warren, how she took very good care of that incompetent, failed upward person. So let's go ahead and do that, and so you can hear what we're talking about. Once again, Elizabeth Warren did not disappoint. At the hearing for Defense Secretary, Elizabeth Warren got to a core issue with regards to the grifting that the Trump administration is always used to. Now, Trump is going to get his guy, Pete Hegseth, he's going to get him. He likely will get confirmed. And my contention is probably he won't last. But I don't know that Trump wants or needs him to last. My hunch is he's going to get into that position, learn a few ropes in that position, and then immediately go ahead and work for defense contractors, having all that inside information that defense contractors pretty much want to know. In other words, go there, implement Donald Trump's policies or start the implementation of the policies, move on over to the defense contractor, give them the heads up, and then immediately, there you go, you're marketable. And you know how you know that? Elizabeth Warren did a very important thing. She points out that Hegseth has constantly said, hey, the generals, all those generals in the forces, they should be forced to wait 10 years before they go work for a defense contractor. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. But what about you, Pete Hegseth? What about you? Let's listen to how Elizabeth Warren got to him, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk to you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about, because it's not
about it right now.
It's not one. My motivation for this job.
I understand that. I just need a yes or no here.
Come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be at the Defense Department. In other words,
you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the president is.
I'll bet you would.
Thank you, Senator Warren.
And that is the issue. Think about what's happening there. If you are that person that is serving the country, you are the person that's putting your life on the line, right? You don't have to go ahead. You have to wait before you kind of make money on your experience with the defense contractors. But moi, I am the head guy. I'm the guy on top. I am the plutocrat. I am the oligarch, or I will be the oligarch. So when I leave government, I can go ahead and work for the defense contractors, not to worry about time. And you know what is sad about it? That it is, these guys think that this is so normal that they don't even have to lie about it and say, oh, well, I won't work for 10 years, even if they go against their word later on. They don't even have to lie about it because there's something within them that they want you to know that they can do as they please. That is why Donald Trump is stuffing nominees that are unqualified through the system, just to show if I want to do it, I can do it, and I will do it. Yeah, Hegseth will be a failure. The people under him, the state, they'll be the one running the department. But again, he'll be the one getting the spoils. It is funny. What Donald Trump seemed to not realize is, as he put all these incompetent people into power, it is the administrative state that they always complain about that is actually then going to run the government. Because think about it. Hegseth telling a general what to do, the general says, "Oh, okay," and then he goes do whatever he wants. Hegseth doesn't know what the ASEAN countries are, and the general tells him, "Ah, well, we're gonna do X, Y, Z." He says, "Oh, okay." Again, there's a penalty for having a dumb set of leaders. We saw it when we had Donald Trump and how he next assassinated over 1 million Americans because of what he allowed to occur with COVID. And it goes on and on and on again. Anyway, new subject. A topic that I want to cover is, before that, let me see what you guys are writing. Forgive me. May Wood is in the house from Long Beach, California. How you doing, May? Great to have you here. Let's see what else we have. Welcome aboard, Mike Cisak. Great to see you here, folks. Who else is in? Let's see. I'm scrolling down. Bear with me as I salute folks and see if I need Rashida Jones. Yep. She's stepping down from MSNBC as MSNBC is going to be spun off. Paul Fleming from Alivelchi, breaking. Multiple sources are reporting that a ceasefire for hostages deal has been reached. Yep, we covered that. Wow, I had a lot of messages here. Okay, AVQ says Trump's negligence is responsible for 400,000 American deaths during the COVID epidemic, not the whole million plus who died. I am going to blame. Let me put it this way: had we not started the ball rolling, my contention is we could have nipped this. Let me give an example. Places like Panama, we didn't have the vaccine and all of that. But what we did is we knew that people had to cover up, people had to protect themselves, people had to mask up. And we masked up. We look at Australia. We look at New Zealand. All these people that did the right thing where we didn't have the mass casualties. Yeah, Italy went through the roof with almost destroying their healthcare system because they just didn't know it was new. By the time it got to all these other places, they could have done much more. And we didn't do it. The amount of people that died because of the silly fights we had with ivermectin, and whether masks should be masked or not, or whether we should shut companies down or not. Think about this. Had we done the type of quarantine for 2 weeks, we had master quarantine. Okay? Think about it. Michael said before the vaccines, other nations that did mass mandate social distancing and washing had much lower death tolls than our nations, which turned all of those into culture war issues by the right. I know, and that's what I'm saying. Because ignorance kills. Ignorance kills. There are many countries that could not get vaccines, could not afford vaccines, and their death rates were lower than ours because they followed science. And again, like I said, we could have burned this stuff out. A dead on quarantine of 2 weeks would have dropped the numbers so low, right? So low, because again, you can't infect something that's not infectable. In other words, if you are not there to infect somebody, that somebody doesn't get infected. You know, it's amazing because we were all home for the longest time. I didn't get COVID until COVID was on the way out. It's amazing. I didn't get COVID until COVID was on the way out. It's amazing. I masked up everywhere I went. I stayed home most of the time, but everywhere I went, I masked up. But it kills. Anyway, the next subject of today is, hey, Elon and Vivek, here's what a real Department of Government Efficiency would do. And let me go ahead and put that Common Dreams article in the chat. Okay? And it goes like this, folks. And you can follow along. I'll put it up on the screen for a little bit first before I go ahead. But it goes like this. Elon, a new report identifies what a DOGE based on evidence, not ideology, would include, from slashing drug prices to ending privatized Medicare to reducing the wasteful Pentagon spending. But here's the deal, folks. DOGE was not created to create efficiencies. That's not why it was created. The reality is DOGE was created to simply cut wherever they could so that they'll have minimal, that the tax cut that's going to go out, because we are going to get the tax cut, so that we can afford the tax cut even as we blow up the budget even further. So here is the deal. If we really wanted to increase efficiency, while the U.S. Senate on Wednesday held confirmation hearings for several President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet nominees, the watchdog Public Citizen sounded the alarm about a new commission and its billionaire leaders who don't require congressional oversight, but could significantly impact federal agency regulations, right? Here's the deal. Despite being called the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE is not a government department. It is a presidential advisory commission that Trump announced after his November win. He asked billionaires Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to co-lead it. You know, it is like the blind leading the blind. Public Citizens co-president Lisa Gilbert, and I know Lisa personally, and Robert Wiseman on Monday wrote to Trump's transition team asking to join DOGE. While their group has concerns about the commission structure and mission, including potential conflicts of interest regarding Musk and Ramaswamy's financials, the watchdog leaders made the case that they could serve as voices for interests of consumers and the public who are beneficiaries of federal regulatory and spending programs. The pair highlighted that their appointment would be an important step towards compliance with the Federal Advisory Committee Act and outlined some ideas they have to slash drug prices, end privatized Medicare, reduce the wasteful Pentagon budget. Wiseman expanded on the group's recommendation in a Wednesday report titled DOGE Delusions, a real-world plan to reject Elon Musk's and Vivek Ramaswamy's misguided agenda, crack down on corporate handouts, tax the rich, and invest for the future. Every sign from DOGE suggests that it aims to use efficiency as a cover to shrink government, benefit corporations by cutting regulations, and advance a predetermined ideology. This report identifies what an efficiency agenda based on evidence, not ideology, would include, from slashing drug prices to ending privatized Medicare to reducing the wasteful spending. Few would argue with the purported goal of government efficiency, but there are nothing efficient about hitting a predetermined target for spending cuts, least of all one that is infeasible, nor is there anything efficient about ideologically driven notions of shrinking government. It's a 35-point report, but anyhow, let's get off the phone. You guys can read that one on your own. But the thing that we have to get into our head, right, is that the government isn't overspending on social issues, on human-based issues. If you want to know where the government is overspending, it's things like building rockets and building bombs and all these things that Israel uses, Ukraine uses, all these things. And not only building these bombs, but building these bombs and these products at a premium. In other words, we are paying orders of magnitude more for these products than they are worth, than they actually cost, right? That's what we're doing. But above and beyond that, that is money that doesn't get recirculated into our economy. Let's look at it in a different way. If we got rid of Medicare Advantage, right, we could give traditional Medicare for free. In other words, if we got rid of Medicare Advantage, the 20% I should say for free, for the cost of just what it costs people with Medicare, with standard traditional Medicare Part A, where you pay, Part B, that you pay a certain amount of your Social Security for. All right? If we got rid of Medicare Advantage because it costs so much more than traditional Medicare to the government, not to you, to the government, we could get rid of the 20% requirement that Medicare doesn't pay. We could actually pay it. Think about that. That's number one. Number two, if we took the drugs away from those who are ripping us off. In other words, let's give an example. Most of the drugs on the market, their precursors didn't start at corporations. These corporations that like to say, if you cut our profits or if we charge less, innovation will fall. They're lying to you because they don't much innovate. Okay? Innovations occur at universities and colleges and and with government grants. That's where innovation comes from. In fact, the people who do the innovation, guess what? They don't get paid dividends. They don't get paid the big profits. It's the parasites, the executives of the corporations and the shareholders in the corporations who simply sit back at their pools, their luxury apartments, and they're the ones that make the profits. They're the ones who get the bonuses. But your engineers, your scientists, they are not the ones who partake of making those big, humongous profits. They're lying to you. So therefore, if DOGE really wants to work right, we can say, okay, let's start following the chain of how a drug is developed. Precursor, a patent being assigned to, let's say, the scientist or whatever, the corporation buying that patent and finishing the work. All right, let's divide up how this work has been done. And let's start throwing a lot of those monies, the profits that come from these drugs, right back into the government coffers, because after all, we paid for it. Okay? I see that Brother Rudnin came up with something here where the title is, Do Large Pharma Companies Provide Drug Development Innovation? Our analysis says no. And I've reported on this several times before. Let me just put a little bit on the thing. Thank you for that, Brother Rudnin, because some of our right-wingers would start talking as if they believe these big pharma companies do things. Here it goes. Large pharmaceutical companies oppose legislation being considered by Congress to lower price of prescription drugs, reducing its revenues. To test the claim, we examine, let me back up. If they says reducing their revenues, they contend will reduce the investment in drug development and the discovery of new medicines, thus lead to a decline in drug innovations. To test that claim, we examine the provenance of the highest selling prescription medicines, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, the two largest pharmaceutical companies and biotechnology companies in 2018. We found that these large pharmaceutical companies did not actually invent most of the drugs they sell. Indeed, it appears they have already reduced their investments in the discovery of new medicines to the point where the threat of additional reductions rings hollow and is no longer a persuasive reason for opposing legislation. Pfizer and J&J annual reports identify the medications that account for most of each company's sales of prescriptions. We gathered information on the discovery and early development of these products. And you know what it generally shows? It generally shows that we develop the products, but I'm not going to finish reading it. Michael Radnin has the link inside of the chat. You can see it there. So as it turns out, folks, we are constantly lied to about who actually develop our drugs. And even when a company says, well, we developed this stuff, or we found this DNA, or we found X, Y, and Z, it turns out that even that precursor has generally been funded by your tax dollars. And then when it's time to now done with it. Okay, thank you very much for that, brother AVQ. Put it on FB and see if it'll work inside of YouTube as well. So folks, understand that we are being hoodwinked. Now, it's not only in the efficiency of what we do that we're hoodwinked. It's in things like the oil that we get on public lands. They pay a small licensing fee or what do you call, not a license, a royalty or whatever, but the big corporations get the spoils. And any country that tries to have land reform or try to have policies to prevent this from happening, they actually get into trouble, not with their people, but with the United States government, who then comes in and destabilize your country. I did a piece on that this morning, and I want you guys to listen to it. I'm from Central America, and Cuba is not viewed the same around Latin America as it is viewed in the United States. And this isn't because Latin America is some communist stomping ground or anything like that. Nothing like that. We just see the unfairness of what happens with Cuba. Cuba was made a model to say, if you don't do it our way, we're going to show that your way is going to fail. Let me first say that personally, I am not a communist. I think America had an opportunity when the revolution took over. Because let me tell you, Batista wasn't a good guy. When Batista was in power, it was terrible. The group of folks out in Cuba that never had the opportunity would have never been able to do anything. And even as bad as the scarce resources, etc., that Cuba had, not because of its economic system, but because of our blockade, it's still a country that was able to produce a higher percentage of doctors, a higher percentage of lawyers, a higher percentage of all these technical things, and people who looked like me, who were only floor sweepers or dancers or entertainers, could actually or finally had access to be a part of the entire society. So it behooves me why we think. Now, you speak to a whole lot of Cubans that were harmed by the takeover and the federalization of a lot of resources in Cuba. You understand their position, right? You understand why they hate Castro, because he nationalized all these different parts of the country, and which was, in their opinion, wrong, right? But I have a question for every single American. Every single American. Remember, first of all, don't color your thoughts by the false things that we were indoctrinated with. But I'm going to ask you a very simple question. We are a very large country. This country has a lot of natural resources, oil, uranium, carbon, a lot of rare metals, even though it's not spoken about a lot, lithium, a ton of stuff. This country has a lot of it on public lands, a lot of it on private lands. This country does. And my question to all of you is, why is it fair that something that was placed into these soils that gave this country ample resources, why is it that we have an economic system that allow a few to capitalize on that? In other words, on public lands where oil is drilled for, corporations who drill for that oil, they use it at will. They pay a small, and notice what I say, it's small fee for access to drilling and exploiting that fuel. But all those resources go to the shareholders who generally are wealthy. Why is it that if you are wealthy enough to have purchased or ceded land, remember, a lot of these lands were back in the 1800s, early 1900s. The government just allotted land to people. And, a lot of these people, the land that they were allotted, they got what's called mineral rights for that land as well. So the fact that the government gave them land to expand the country, land that effectively wasn't theirs, and restricted who actually got the land, whom then became wealthy. Why is that fair? Let's look at West Texas. Look at the few families that own those humongous ranches, some of them larger than city, with all the resources that's under that land. What makes it fair that ceded them that land, give them ultimate power in Texas? And this is something that can be replicated in Montana, Dakota, and all these other states. What makes it that it's fair for those people to be wealthy just because? I mean, there are a lot of questions like that we ask. And I tell you, I want to expand that from Cuba to Venezuela, etc. A different philosophy is that all the resources of a country should belong to everyone in that country. All the resources in that. And as we demonize any political system, any government that says we are going to take public lands and ensure that the resources from that public land goes towards the people, there's one thing we will always do as a country, as what our plutocracy does. And it makes sure that those countries are destabilized until their own plutocracy takes it over. That happens with Venezuela. That happened with Cuba. That happened with Guatemala. That happened with El Salvador. That happened with Haiti. That happened with Dominican Republic. So, and to put it bluntly, that happens to every country south of the border. Every country south of the border. We will not allow a government to exist that talks about land reform and talks about giving wealth of the land to the people. And it's understandable because the biggest fear is that we here in America are some of the ones that have been, yes, we're a rich country because we have we're a manufacturing country, especially after World War II. The world depended on us for our manufacturing base, etc. But my friends, my brothers and my sisters, suppose we saw another country, albeit a smaller country, who decided to democratize its natural resources. In other words, acknowledging that the natural resources of that country, that territory, belong to the people of that country, of that territory, and allocated it as it should. Imagine if Americans got that into their psyche, that all these companies that are mining on public lands that belong to us all, that income from those resources after expenses to those who exploit it should really be going into the coffers of we the people. Imagine if we got that notion and understand what our true worth should be. Imagine we wouldn't have to talk about redistribution of monies from the wealthy through taxes, because we would have started from a position of fairness, that the resources of that country should belong to those in that country and not to the few who has the capital to exploit it. Imagine. And one of the things why we don't allow critical thinking in our country, why we always try to demonize progressives who try to put these messages out, is because suddenly people start to realize, oh my God, we have been had. We don't want anybody else to see countries that decide to have a democratized economic system. We don't want that. A democracy, we have a popular democracy for things that are marginal, but our economic system is sure not a democracy. The exploitation of our resources, they're sure not a democracy. And the biggest fear of our plutocracy is that somehow Americans wake up and realize that they've been had. Exactly. That's the biggest fear of the plutocracy, that Americans wake up and say, oh my God, why is it that we work so hard? And Americans are some of the hardest workers on the planet. And I'm not kidding you. Americans work very hard. And to hear that, wait a minute, why is it that every year we take a look at the pie, and the pie for the vast majority, 90% of us is shrinking, as the guys like Elon Musk command $400 billion. He didn't make it. I say that every day. I will continue to say it all of the times. These billionaires didn't make it. And for those of you who say that's wealth envy, that's not wealth envy. That is self-preservation to prevent the extraction of your wealth, your worth. Because we are in an economic system that's expanding, but that is closed. I repeat, the economic system is expanding, but it is a closed system. So therefore, as it expands, if you have a certain group expanding at a faster rate than the other group, the group that expands at the faster rate, this is a mathematical certainty, eventually gets it all. And that is where we are reduced into what I call indentured servitude, nothing more than antiseptic slavery. When I talk about our system being an antiseptic slave state, that's exactly what I'm meaning. And the reason it's antiseptic, because it's done so cleanly. It's done in a manner that you don't even realize it's happening. Dr. Richard Wolff has a thing that he put out decades ago. Capitalism hits the fan, and everything that he said is starting to occur. And he points out where, if you take a look at America's prosperity, it looks like we had a vision of prosperity. We had a semblance of prosperity, but that semblance of prosperity was we selling out our worth to the Elon Musk and all of them. As we wanted more things, we bought more things, but we were constantly giving our lives over to credit, which means we're giving our lives over to someone else. And that is something that we have to understand. It is something we have yet to understand. And my thing is, when critical thinking comes to pass, people are going to start asking themselves, why did we allow this for so long? Let's give an example. I use oil because oil is something that we're all dependent on, and it's easy to talk about. We are producing more oil in America than we have ever produced. Ever. We are energy independent in America. Okay. When we came out of the pandemic, and this is something that, you guys, this alone should make you want to abhor oil companies. We were pumping more oil than anything else. And because of that, the United States oil men and others went to it went to Saudi Arabia and other oil producing countries and say, hey guys, shut the spigot. We want the prices to rise up. That's inflation, right? They caused it. And by causing the price of oil to go up, everybody else's prices for everything, not just oil, went up. Your eggs went up because you had to transport the eggs from the farm. You had to transport the plants from the farm. The fertilizers that are oil dependent got increased in prices. That one step of saying we're going to produce less oil. In other words, capitalism, which talks about the efficient allocation of resources, is a fraud. Because think about this. We artificially created a shortage. I repeat, we artificially created a shortage that caused prices to go up. And the people who are beneficiary of those price rises were the executives and the shareholders, not the average American. So they decided they wanted to take more money out of us. And we said, okay, take it. And for that, we also elected somebody that would allow this to continue. This is where we have to take responsibility for those we elect. Earlier, Ray called in and Ray said, we have to elect more progressives. And he's right. But it's not going to happen automatically. We have to fight our way into ensuring that our people elect us. It is something we have to do on our own. The plutocracy never gives in. Egberto for the screen. Thank you, my brother. Let me go ahead and put that out there for you. Where is it? There we go. Michael Rudnin wants this on the screen. It's going to be sort of in the top. Let me see if I can expand it some. Yeah, I got to expand it some. All right, let's go ahead and put that on the screen. That is what it looks like, folks. America in 2018 was producing the least amount, and that was in those three that you see there. If you take a look at what happened in 2023, America was the largest producer of oil in the world. Take a look at it. You're looking at it right there. Saudi Arabia, the United States, and Russia, the three top oil producers. And look at what those numbers are telling you. Look at what those numbers on the screen are telling you. Donald Trump lied to you all when he said, oh, I'm going to drill. Unfortunately, Biden started, even as we don't want it, Biden started drilling to produce more oil than anybody else. The same with inflation. Trump is responsible for the chain reaction that caused the inflation. But you know what? He gets himself a great economy. He gets himself all these good things. And watch him throw it all to the curb by mismanaging all of it. Watch it completely mismanaged, and it takes us right back into what occurred in 2008. Clinton gave a balanced budget to Bush 2. Clinton gave a balanced budget to Bush. And Bush immediately squandered it. Brother Patrick Magner, talk to
AI
me.
is taking notes.
Yes, sir. I thought that I was caught up, but I guess I'm not. I wanted to expand a little bit on the oil topic.
Yes.
I've said on your 6 o'clock program that all the oil in the public lands are something that we own.
Yes.
And to lease off land to extract something that we own to turn back around and sell it back to us is not a good system. Other countries that have nationalized oil, I think that a lot of people on the right are critical of them, and the rich left those countries, and so it didn't work out for everybody, but it worked out for the majority of them. Somebody brought up Venezuela. Venezuela, before the oil was nationalized, the rich there lived better than a lot of the top people in California.
Mm-hmm.
But the infrastructure there to go to anywhere that wasn't a gated community, the wastewater treatment and everything were open ditches that drained down side the hills. The housing was shanties. There were no roads. You can't expect a country to have that much income disparity without it eventually changing. And I don't usually look at the comments that much, but I think that Eric commented on Venezuela. The majority of the people benefited from him.
Let me tell you,
Hugo Chavez.
Patrick, Hugo Chavez reduced poverty. I mean, there are a lot of studies that have already been done. We destabilized Venezuela. Okay, America sent the CIA in to destabilize Venezuela. When Carlos Andres Perez and all these folks were in charge of Venezuela, it was an oligarchic society. It was a democracy, but an oligarchic democracy. And the same thing that's happening here happened there. The wealthy took over. The wealthy got everything. And he reduced poverty. Now it's a shambles because America did the same thing that they did to Cuba. They're doing to Venezuela. So it is a complete, sabotage. Yeah, exactly. It's a sabotage that's happening so that Americans can say, you see, that if we nationalize oil, it doesn't work. You're absolutely right. We need to nationalize oil. But Eric, near me, Eric. Patrick, it's 4:00 and I got to close this baby out, my brother. Thank you very much for calling, sir.
All right. Have a great day.
You too, my friend. All right, folks, I got to close out. But before we close out, I want to ask everybody to consider becoming supporters of this program. As you know, it's not just this program on the internet. It's also on KPFT, 90.1 FM in Houston and around the country. It's also, it also covered, we write books, articles. This is an entire progressive enterprise, and what we're asking all of you who have the wherewithal to do so is to please support us. The easiest way to support us right now is to support us on Substack by becoming a paid subscriber. And how can you do that? You can do that by going to politicsandright.com/newsletter. That is politicsandright.com/newsletter, and go ahead and support us however you can. Alternatively, you can become a patron by going to politicsandright.com/Patreon. politicsandright.com/Patreon. If you are watching us directly on Substack, you can go ahead and sign up, go ahead and become a paid member directly from your application. But anyway, folks, we need your support. We cannot do this without you. Remember, anybody who becomes a paid subscriber of Politics Done Right on Substack or on Patreon or anywhere else, you get full access to our books online. If you take a look at this, you know what? Maybe I can take 1 minute to show this real quickly. Well, actually, I don't have the time. I'm running out of time. So, but again, you can read our books and everything directly on our Substack, our newsletter. So please consider becoming a paid subscriber today. We can actually get it done. My name is, thank you all, love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what?
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.